ever be an Edomite, you are not just an Edomite in this life, you're an Edomite in the next life, the next life. You will never be an Edomite. This is what the Bible says. You will never be an Israelite. I will never be an Israelite. You will never be an Israelite.
When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. Don't nobody wanna face the truth about how we really got here. Want us to forget about slavery like it never happened. But them slave ships important, a key connection to our past. Read Deuteronomy 28 to help you feel what I'm saying. We were forced on this land, allowed by Yahweh's hand, but it was all for a purpose, part of a bigger plan. They still talk about the Holocaust, ignore our mass genocide. We ain't been propagated again. This country built on lies. Yeah, I know y'all ain't the ones who put us in chains, but them y'all ancestors, that blood still run through your veins. Plus your status in society is cause you reap them benefits from the corners that was sold. Please don't try to act ignorant like your forefathers was innocent and the issues don't concern you. They've been reincarnated, your ancestors are you. Look at the way that you treat us, shoot us down in the streets, throw us in cages like animals. This ain't the land of the free. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. That's our salvation. Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. You touched the apple of his eye. This something you won't get away with. They understand what they face. I see it in their eyes when they look at my friends. They know Israel rising, dry bones being awakened. The kingdom's eyes for the taking. We renewing our minds, shaking all lies from Satan. Eat them the vessels of wrath, and they've been fitted for destruction. I'll never be cool with my oppressor. The Bible tell me not to trust them. Still God is knowledge, but fools despise instruction. They need a Bible college for wisdom. The Holy Spirit instructs me. Sucklers need milk, they can't digest. They can't just unlearn, so they misinterpret John 3:16. Saying Christ died for all, but everybody don't need saving. Deliverance is the essence of our eternal salvation. Inheritance is Israel. God deals with no other nation. His words can't come back void, your emotions won't make it. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. When this kingdom come and this will be done, I know vengeance is the Lord's. They gon' pay for what they done. That's our salvation. You just wanna do what you feel because you're living in the flesh. You got comfort in captivity, but this is not your race. Micah 2:10. We ain't adopt European culture, it was pushed on us. This nation ain't under God, they enemies are winning. Everything he told us don't do, they making it legal. Killing babies before birth, man, abortion is evil. A child is a child, even if it's a fetus. I'm tired of the lies, all they do is mislead us. On my knees, I'm pleading, and the lies don't believe them. They deceitful creatures, such as dry like leeches. On our ancestor back, they built this wicked nation. Ain't no way to make it right, it ain't no justification. Here counsels on our behalf to set up indoctrination. LGBTQ, I don't care, it's abomination. You can't counsel me, cause I don't want the fame. I just wanna wake up my people and break the chain. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Cause you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Cause you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So how you gonna say you got faith when you ain't got no works? Gotta afflict your flesh and put the Most High first. But you just wanna get drunk and you just wanna pop perk, but you just wanna get high until you ride the earth. You don't want lip service, it's the heart he serves. If we keep the commandments, we could break these curses. Listen close to these verses. The scripture immersed in them to repent from sin. You gotta stop living in them. Them snakes got venom in them. The strike will kill you. That life you're living will leave you defenseless. Wake up, Israel. This might be your last chance. MJ last dance. You can't come back. Take advantage of the life you were blessed with. Get the most high that attention that your flesh get. I know it feel good, but it's killing ya. Use the Bible like a mirror and fix your spirit up. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Cause you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel. Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain. How you gonna try to coach if you don't know the game? You gon' get on the field and pick the wrong place. Instead of seeking help, you wanna do your own thing. When we young, we all feel like we know it all. I was the same way and ended up behind the walls. I lost my grandma and grandpa while I was gone. Didn't get to say my goodbyes, had to remain strong. While I was away, my baby mama gave birth to my daughter. When I needed to be around, I couldn't cause I was locked up. Got out and when I thought things wouldn't getting no worse, my daughter mama got sick. Started to feel like I was cursed. A few months later, cancer would take her from earth. I took life for granted and ended up getting hurt. Pain. Time is something you can lose and can never get back. Pain. The world will hit you with pain and you can't hit back. Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. Yeah. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no gain. Changed my life, but unfortunately my home is stuck in the street. Got the phone call by Tracy, long live DT. He got killed on the same block we hustled on. He was like my little brother, man, now he gone. Last time I saw him, I told him to be careful. Cause them bricks in Mobile streets deadly. He just had bought a Camaro and got a good job. Trying to be a better man, but his life got raw. Had one foot in, then get the chance to pull it out. They caught him lacking, then get the chance to pull it out. Growing up in the hood, feel like it's no other route. If you still in the streets, I pray you make it out. Don't get trapped in the trap. It's a setup. Satan unleashing the tax and he won't let up. I can't alter your path, but I hope you heed my heads up. And no matter what happens, just keep your head up. Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. Yeah. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain. No pain, no. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain. No, you can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain, pain, pain.
Shalom, 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 family.
Shalom.
Shalom.
So the brother Aaron's going to be doing a Hebrew language lesson today. This is volume 5, and if anybody, whoever sees this on the replay, and to everybody that's watching, if you could go ahead and like, share, and also if you haven't heard any of the prior language lessons, Hebrew language lessons, they're all located on this page, and the brother also has some lessons about Hebrew on his own YouTube channel at Believer the Report 144. So if you could go ahead, give a like, share, and the water. And I just want to start off by saying, Call Allah Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai. And brother, you can go ahead, whatever your initial statement is.
Khan. I echo the same sentiments. I'll start off by first giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, and I'll do so in the name of his beloved son, Yahweh Shai. And also, as we have on the screen, usually when we do these lessons, we put at the ticker at the screen. It says Ashalam Thawadath Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which means I give praise to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. So like the brother Hurt said, another installment of the Hebrew lessons. We're at volume 5 or lesson 5, and tonight it'll actually be a follow-up. Most High willing, all of you have seen the video that was posted on this channel yesterday, and it was regarding the name of the Most High and pronunciation. We're going a little bit deeper into that topic in this lesson. So without anything further, I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna get into the PowerPoint. Can brothers see my screen? Is anybody able to read or available to read?
I am. Brother Jordan, if you want to start it off, if you're available, you can.
Salakia.
Khan. Oh, he may
probably can't. Yeah, he probably can't. All right, I can start it.
Khan the water.
Hebrew lesson 5. What is the Most High and His Son's name? What we will discuss below: the importance of proper names, the Hebrew script form. We'll touch on pronunciation, history on the vowel system, and much more.
Khan. So this is this is sort of a table of contents. This is just what we're going to touch on in this PowerPoint. Not nothing crazy going on in this particular slide, but this is just what to expect. So we can move on to the next slide. And I'll just touch on this. You don't even got to read this, but basically what we see right here is this is like a name tag type of font, and a question. This is basically the theme of this particular lesson. It says, what is his name and his son's name? And we have different name tags. The father is his name Yahweh. The son name, is it Yeshua? The son is the son's name Yahweh Shai. The father, is it Yahweh? Is the son's name Jesus? And we see this question right here in the middle. It says, which one is closest? So what we're going to go into is, which name and which, or more so, which pronunciation is closest and most accurate, right? So without anything further, we can go a little bit further along.
Salaki, I'm reading on mute. Preface. This presentation is strictly for hopeful edification and is in no way bashing anyone for their understanding. This presentation is to clear up any confusion there could be on why certain of us may or may not use certain pronunciations of names for the Most High God of Israel and His Son, the Anointed Messiah. Yeah, that's good that you made that clear.
Khan, all praises. And yeah, just to echo, the sentiments of the preface or the preface. This this lesson isn't to bash anybody. I love all 12 tribes. Even if we have a difference in understanding on what we or how we believe the Most High's name is pronounced or His Son's name is pronounced, we're only going into this particular lesson, for hopeful edification, and to explain our stance and how we come, to the pronunciation that we do. All right. So without anything further, we can move on. Yeah, hold on. Okay. All right, you got it. Salaki.
Khan. The name for the power or God of Israel is Yahweh. The name Yahweh, pronounced Yahweh, means self-existent, or more concretely, he is as in existence. And in the Strong's Concordance, it is H3068, which usually shows up as the Tetragrammaton, YHWH, or Lord. And in English, it's rendered Jehovah. The most modern form is Jehovah, and more popularly pronounced as Yahweh.
Khan. So this is just pretty much a summary and also a premise as well. So the name of the Most High God is Yahweh. That's how you pronounce his proper name, and it concretely means he is or he exists, and it's rendered in the English as Jehovah. And you'll see in some Bibles, it, like, I think an example would be Psalms. It might be Psalms 83:18, where it actually it keeps that, or it maintains that rendering in the English of Jehovah. But in older Bibles, you may see Jehovah or Jehovah, because older Bibles like the 1611 KJV don't really contain the letter J within the Bible, right? But we can continue on, and Brother Hurt, if you have anything at any point, you could always add.
Khan. The name for the Messiah is Yahawashi. The name Yahawashi, pronounced Yahawashi, Salaki, means whose salvation is Yahweh. And in the Strong's Concordance, is H3091, which in the New Testament would be, because of transliteration, G2424, which would be Aisos, pronounced Eisos.
Khan. So the name of the Messiah is Yahawashi, and the meaning of Yahawashi's name is whose salvation is Yahweh. That's a more concrete definition. Sometimes you'll see Yahweh is salvation. You'll see it like that, but when you look at more concrete or more mechanical lexicons, it'll say whose salvation is Yahweh, right? And it would be H3091, and we're gonna jump into how we link H3091 to G2424, but in the New Testament it would be Jesus or Iesus, right? Or Iesus. So we can move forward.
All right. Warning. This may be hard to accept. So many times as people, we stress and usually mean well when we say, I don't mind being wrong, as long as we could get to the truth. But when we're presented with sound evidence to corroborate what's being said, and we still reject what's being said, it's usually for many reasons. One being we are uncomfortable with change, or we are so used to what we were given or taught, or both of those things. Of inconsistency, cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is simply the discomfort that comes from your beliefs disagreeing with one another or your actions.
Con. So hopefully this is clear, but just to speak on it a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of us, even in the truth, have dealt with this, where we're presented information and we always preach and say, well, yeah, prove all things. If you could show it, I'll yield to it. But sometimes what happens is, like, we might get proven wrong, and like something like the other side will have something just emphatic and super sound, and because we really don't want to change, we'll reject it. And really, of course, we still believe that if something is sound, you should yield to it. But there are certain situations where you kind of reject that belief, right? And what happens is you end up just holding on to what you were taught or what you were given, despite being proven wrong and being shown that you're emphatically wrong. And this inconsistency, like the slide says, is synonymous with cognitive dissonance, right? But Brother Hurt, if you got anything you could add on, but if not, we can move forward.
Khan, I want to bring out a scripture that goes right along with what you said, because that's very profound. Because we have preconceived notions already before we are presented with any type of information. Everybody always has an opinion about any and everything, whatever subject it may be in this world that we live in. We're always going to have a preconceived notion. But when we study things out, it makes a difference. So this is Hebrews 5. And I'll start at verse 11. It says, of whom we have many things to say, and hard to be uttered, seeing ye are dull of hearing. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. And so, the reason I brought this scripture out is because sometimes we have to admit to ourselves, like verse 13 says, for everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. We have to realize when we're a babe at a certain type of understanding to be able to get the understanding. So, that's a profound thing that you brought out, because this is what's needed to learn. We have to unlearn things to relearn things.
Khan, that's an excellent point. All praise to the Most High.
Khan, all praise. Why is the true name important? An argument you may hear going into this subject is, why does it even matter? He knows your heart, which is true. The Heavenly Father searches the heart, and I try the reins. However, we correct people with our own names when they mispronounce them. So why don't we share the same urgency when learning the Heavenly Father's name? This question is posed to them that make this argument. But another point on why it's important is because the scriptures speak expressly about their names. The importance of the name of the Father is shown to be significant because the scriptures emphasize the things he did, his reputation or fame, but also his name that belongs to him. Throughout the law and the prophets and for the Son, the Bible says there is no other name to obtain salvation but by his Son's name. So this speaks to the significance of their names and why they're important. With that being said, why wouldn't their proper names and pronunciations be important, since their reputations are shown to be of much importance? It's paramount that we understand the true name of Father and Son. Think of your own proper name and rep. As it relates to the Son, Acts 4:12 speaks to the point above, and the Greek word for the name in this verse has been placed below. And I can't read that. It's that small writing got me.
Yeah, I'll touch on it. But the word in Acts 4, and most of the time within the so-called New Testament, The word that's used for name is the Greek root onoma, which is G3686. And the outline of biblical usage is of proper names, and then also basically it covers everything that you think about when you use this particular proper name. So for instance, if like for instance, we could think about Yahweh. Everything that comes with Yahweh would include the God that brought the children of Israel out of Egypt, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the father of Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, etc. Right? So these, and basically it would speak to his fame or glory or his reputation. So it's similar to, also someone's proper name, but their reputation or glory as well. Right. So all of these, and even when you look at the definition, I know it's a little bit small, but on the definition, it says a name, literally or figuratively, authority, character, and then called, meaning what you're called by, and then it says surname. So it can refer to your authority or your character, which will go alongside your reputation or your glory, and then also what you're called by, literally, like what your proper name is. Right, but if nothing else, we can move forward. This is just kind of setting the premise a little bit.
I got a precept. It is Proverbs 18 and verse 10. The name of the Lord, and that Lord right there, what we read in Proverbs 18 and 10, it would be Yahweh. So the name of Yahweh is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. So this shows just the importance, like the brother has illustrated in this slide, that the Most High name is very important, and when we use it, we become safe. And it's not just saying just using the name, but knowing who Yahweh is, knowing what he requires of us. These things are important and essential to actually being heard and being protected. So like, a strong tower, if it's a hurricane coming, you feel safe because you're in a foundation that's sturdy. So that's the same thing with us in our faith.
God, all praises. Excellent point.
Say my name. The importance of name pronunciation. Our name helps to shape our identity. Being called by our name is powerful and allows us to feel seen and respected. Respect. Treat a name like any other part of someone's identity and treat it with respect. It is important not to make a joke or try to shorten or change the name.
And at the bottom here is the link or the source in which I grabbed this from, and Most High willing, I'll have this slideshow. I'll attach it to the comments somehow, some way, very soon. But this is referring to just how we treat people. Now, if we treat people and with this respect and have this common decency and courtesy for people, how much more the Most High? All right, and I think I kind of touched on this point in the slideshow, where we respect, other people or other individuals and what they want to be called. And I think even in the video that was released yesterday, I kind of touched on it a little bit, how people run around wanting to be called this and that, and we revere that and honor that. But when it comes to the Lord's name, it's one of those things where, it doesn't matter. He hears you no matter what name you call on. Like I've heard of, someone teaching that it doesn't matter what you call the Lord. You can call him Yo Play Yogurt for all I care. Something along those lines. And, like, just like to put it in perspective, like imagine Yeah, it's madness, and it's like, imagine if someone had that amount of respect for your name or for you, just in general, because that is a lack of respect. Like, brother Hurt, imagine if I said to you, hey, you know what, Hurt? It don't matter what your name is. I'm gonna call you Chair. Like, like that's folly.
Or like somebody being disrespectful. Hey, boy,
Right.
are you gonna turn your head around and look like, no, who are you talking to? Because I know you're not talking to me. I'm
Right.
not. Hey, boy,
God,
I have a name, sir.
God, it's a brother. It's like it's a brother. That I'm on calls with, sometimes, we're having biblical conversations, and it'll be dudes that'll call him nigga, like they'll call him nigga, and he'll be like, I don't know this nigga that you speak of. Like every single time someone calls him nigga, he says, I know not of this nigga that you speak of. And like I love that response. But
I think I heard him say it today.
God, good. But like, just get back to the point. It's a show of respect, to revere somebody's name and how it's pronounced, and not to make a joke of it or shorten it or try to change it. And if we had that respect for people, that we that we get to see, or sometimes don't even like, or we're forced to deal with, how much more should we have that respect, for the Most High and the Son. All right. But if you got anything to add, you can. If not, we can move on.
No, sir. We can continue. All right. Ancient and modern biblical Hebrew script and sounds. Above, I have from Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven, as it's rendered in the KJV. But in the Hebrew, it would say, in the beginning, created the powers, the heavens. But notice these two texts, while they say the same thing, have distinguishing looks from one another as well as sound. That's because on the left is the modern Assyrian Hebrew. Some may call it the square script. And on the right, it's often referred to as the Paleo Ancient script.
Con, and right here on the right, where I think, can you see my mouse or no?
Con, I can see it moving. I can see it moving.
Okay. Con, all praises. Where my mouse is moving, this is what is called, as I mentioned, or as mentioned in the slideshow, this is what you call the Paleo or ancient script, or and among linguistics, linguists, they'll call it the Middle Shemitic script. And this is more ancient, right? And on the left side, this is more modern. As you see, it's the modern Hebrew, or the Assyrian, or the square script, or the box script. And right here, it's distinguished by these dots and dashes, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But as we will read this one, obviously we'll read it as Badar Ashiath, Badar Ah, Alahayim, Ath Hashemayim. Now, the sound, for the modern, because of the dots and dashes, these being utilized today, the sound is much different. Now, this will be pronounced on this side, Bereshit, Bara, Elohim, Et Hashemayim. So it's pronounced a little bit differently, because in the ancient Hebrew, and we're going to touch on this, but it's based primarily out of A-type vowels. But in the modern, we have here an E-type vowel, more E-type. We have A-type vowels right here, O-type vowel over here, E-type, A-type. So it's all different types of sounds you can get within the modern Hebrew based on the vowel system, and we're going to touch on this vowel system in a little bit, right? But this is going to push to a point, to show why certain pronunciations have came about, and why we pronounce how we pronounce it today, right? So let's continue on, unless you got anything you want to add to it.
No, sir. We can continue, brother. How do we get this pronunciation of Yahweh? It is understood, even among linguists, that the ancient Hebrew consisted of primarily what we would call today A-type vowels. Because of the letters producing the A sound, this is concluded because the A-type is more ancient. For example, the Hebrew character Yod in antiquity would have been pronounced as Yah. We know vowels as A, E, I, O, and U. And in the Hebrew language today, there are vowel types for each of these. But going back into history, we see the usage of these letters and sounds weren't what we know them to be today. For instance, the letter E goes back over 3,000 years ago, but in the Semitic languages, such as Hebrew, it was pronounced as the H sound, which produced Ha. With the letter O, it originates from the Proto-Sinaitic character Ayin, which is in pictographic form in I. This produces the I sound, and this is where the letter I originates from, as well as which produces the I sound, that I sound. The letter U was a product of what we could understand as W, or in the ancient Hebrew, Wa, and now Vav, because the W sound isn't used in Hebrew today. Finally, the letter A goes back to the Al or Aleph character in the ancient Semitic language, which produces the A sound.
So essentially what's being touched on in this particular slide is starting to paint the picture of how we get the pronunciation Yahweh. And what's being touched on the first few points is that the A-type vowel sound is ancient in origin, or more ancient in origin. And we're able to trace the A-type vowel sound back further than the other vowels, as we see in the second point, where it says we know vowels today as A, E, I, O, and U, right? Because we know that the E, it comes from the H, the O, and the I, they come from the same character. The U, it originates from the W, right? And that's a big thing as well. I just had a back and forth with somebody, I think it was last week, and they were trying to make the argument that that the U, that the Most High's name is Yahuwah, and they were saying that there is no W's in the Hebrew, and I was able to show him some scholarship to show that it's the opposite, that the U came from the W, and I'm like, hey, I could show you this source, like I'll DM you, and I DM'd him, and he said, yeah, I read the source, and then he just was diarrhea at the mouth. And I said, well, can you send me your source? And he hasn't responded yet. But, this is basically what this slide is touching on. It's touching on the fact that, the A would be more ancient in origin. All right. So this is starting to build the premise on how we get to the pronunciation of Yahweh. Right. But if you got any points or anything you want to add, you can.
No, I just want to say it's a beautiful lesson through the spirit, and just the timing of it is perfect. That lesson I had that I've been holding on to for a few weeks. I'm going to do Tuesday about how pride prevents correction. And this is just a perfect lesson that's really showing that if you do have that pride, Like, you have your own understanding of what the Most High God's name is. You won't even consider what brothers are trying to show you.
Con.
You know? Yeah. So like you presenting that evidence to the brother that has source. They said he was gonna look at it, but he never got back to you. So it's like kind of like just ignoring it, not dealing with what's on the table.
Con.
But yeah, all praise to the Most High.
Con, all praises.
How do we get this pronunciation of Yahweh? Continued. Moving to how you would pronounce the Father's name, first we would look at the spelling in the modern Hebrew version of characters, which would be at the top, and the paleo, which would be below it, the second image. And below, third image, is a picture of the alphabet characters for both. We see utilized to spell the Father's name, the Yah, Ha, Wah, Ha characters, which spell Yahweh, and would be pronounced Yahweh.
Con, and just to kind of speak to this slide, we see down here, and I've placed this in previous lessons before, but this is a chart that shows the pronunciation for each letter, from the Alap, Bayath, Gamal, etc. And again, like, I implore everyone that's watching this, that's gonna see this on a replay, to take the time to actually study the Hebrew language, so that a lot of this stuff isn't like rocket science or literally like another language to you. You're able to have some understanding on what's going on when I'm even looking at these particular characters, or discussing the names and sounds of these characters, right? But as you see, what's used to spell the Father's name or the Most High's name is the Yah, Ha, Wah, Ha, which is pronounced as Yahweh. All right, so we can move on. And of course, if you got anything you can add, but
no, I don't have nothing, brother.
okay.
How do we get this pronunciation of Yahweh Shai, the Messiah? Moving to how we would pronounce the Son's name, let's look at the spelling, like how we did the Most High's name. Above, we have the ancient first image and modern rendering. Second, and all the way at the bottom is the alphabet for both. We can see the characters utilized are Yahweh Shai and would be spelled Yahweh Shai and pronounced Yahweh Shai.
Khan, so similar to the previous slide, which showed the Most High's name, and the spelling and pronunciation of the letters, we see a similar thing with Yahweh Shai. And I won't harp on this too much because we're gonna get to more of this information.
How do we go from Jesus to Yahweh Shai? First, we must keep in mind that the letter J is a newer invention and was invented in 1524 by Gian Giorgio Trissino of Italy during the Renaissance. This was a very long time after the Messiah walked the earth. However, this is a transliteration of the Greek word Strong's G2424, Isos, pronounced Isos. When you look this word up on most biblical tools that use the Strong's Concordance, it references you back to Strong's H3091, which would be the word Joshua. So this means Joshua and the Messiah had the same spelling for a name, and this is indicated in the New Testament as well in the KJV, with verses like Acts 7:45, Hebrews 4:8.
Khan, so this is in reference to a little bit earlier, when I was showing the premise of what the Son's name is, or what the Messiah's name is, which is Yahweh Shai. And I showed that there was a link between Strong's G2424, and Strong's H3091. You know, because when you look at, for instance, and you'll see this, I think, in a later slide, but when you look at where Joshua's name is mentioned, what's like, and when you look at where Yahushua name is mentioned, you know, in certain places like Acts 7:45 and Hebrews 4:8, it in context is talking about Joshua. Like, and matter of fact, I'll read it real quick. I'm gonna go to the book of, I think the easier one is Acts 7:7. So let me look at this one. So this is the book of Acts, chapter 7, and verse 44. I'll start there. It says, "Our fathers had the tabernacle of witness in the wilderness, as he had appointed, speaking unto Moses, that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen." Right? So contextually speaking, this is Stephen, and you know, he's basically speaking to the Israelites, like the chief priests and the elders there, and this is right before he gets stoned. But he's recalling, or I would say recalling, you know, some of our history, like our origin as a nation, us coming out of the wilderness, etc. Right? But he mentions Moses right here. Verse 45, it says, "Which also our fathers that came after brought in with," it says, "Jesus into the possession of the Gentiles, whom God drave out before the face of our fathers unto the days of David." Now, if anybody is listening to this particular verse and you're reading, if you're reading this with comprehension, you'll see that it mentions brought in with Jesus into the possession of the Gentiles, and then it says whom God drave out before the face of our fathers unto, meaning until, the days of David. Now, we would have to look in the scriptures, in the history, to see when the Messiah drove out the Gentiles or the nations, before David got on the scene. That's not in the Bible. You don't see that. But we do see a man named Joshua in the book of Joshua partake in these things, right? So when you look at this, Acts 7:45 in a different translation, if let me see, I'll just look at it in, I'll look at it in the New King James Version. It says, "Which our fathers, having received it in turn, also brought with Joshua into the land possessed by the Gentiles, whom God drove out before the face of our fathers until the days of David." Right? So that's, actually referring to Joshua, the son of Nun. But, it actually, in the KJV, it renders the name as Jesus. Now, when you look at the particular word that's there, is Iesus, which is the same word, Strong's G2424. It's the same word that's used anywhere the Messiah's name is used. So just from that fact, we can deduce and conclude that the Messiah, as the slide says, that the Messiah and Joshua, the son of Nun, had the same spelling for a name, right? So they had the same name, right? So hopefully that's clear to understand, and we can move on, unless you got any points out.
Nah, I ain't got nothing out.
Okay.
Let's talk about the changes. Aside from the obvious, which is the appearance, the sounds produced out of the modern script is different from the ancient script, and it's a lot of evidence to corroborate this claim. The first point is the vowel points, which were added to the text to give words pronunciation according to the party who produced this invention. And this was an invention of the school of Tiberius and excuse me, Salaki, and occurred circa the 9th century. So the takeaway from that is before the 9th century, the original biblical text did not include the additions of vowel points. So that would corroborate the claim that not only did Moses not read or speak this dialect of Hebrew, but neither did the Messiah or the apostles who lived first century. The name of this vowel system is called the Nikud, which is the system we see to this day, which includes the dots, dashes, and marks. Second point is, even before the usage of this vowel system, the use of an older vowel system is seen. And this is called the matrix lectionis. This vowel system didn't use dots or dashes, but simply used other letters to produce other vowel letter sounds. However, this system is long after the days Moses as well, and the time period for this addition was circa 2nd century or 6th century, or sometime in between. But most sources call this system spurious, meaning fake or not authentic, regarding being included in the sacred text originally. And why is this? It's because this system was added.
Khan, simply put, because it's very obvious that the Nikud, which uses the dots, dashes, and marks, that's a fairly new invention, compared to when the so-called Old Testament was written, or a lot of the books were written. Now, no scholar anywhere would say that the Old Testament or Moses or anything like that they wrote using the Nikud, putting those dots and dashes. Nobody would ever say that. That's respected, that knows anything about the language. Now we could put that aside. Now the second point with the matrix lectionis is that this particular vowel system was a vowel system that used other vowel letters to create vowel sounds. So they might use, and I'm going to go into it a little bit later in another slide, but they might use the wa, to try to make a E sound or a U sound or an O sound or something like that. But even this particular system is what you would call spurious, right? And the sources are in this slideshow at the end in the references tab. But sources call this particular system spurious, meaning fake or not what it's purported to be, and that's because this system was added. It wasn't originally in the text. You don't see it there. You see it later on, as certain scribes made, copies of the text. But this wasn't originally in the biblical Hebrew Bible, or the Hebrew Bible, Salaki, not biblical Hebrew Bible, but Hebrew Bible. Right. But we can move on, and unless you got any points.
Nah, more on changes in the Hebrew language and Yahweh, or YHWH. Continuing, speaking to the vowel systems, which use the alternate vowel letters and points. These systems make pronunciation ambiguous at times, because depending on vowel point placement, you can get multiple pronunciations for the same spelling. Let's use the Heavenly Father's name as an example. Without any modification, it would be pronounced Yahweh. But let's look at the different combos that people can get by using these systems. Look at the right, for example.
Salakia. Now, and I meant before you started reading to just read the first 2 points, because I wanted to make a point. So when it says look at the right, for an example, we can see right here the the first rendering of the Most High's name here in the Hebrew letters or the modern Hebrew letters are without any dashes or any vowel letters or anything like that. It's just the pure letters. So this would be pronounced obviously Yahweh, right? And of course, remember that Hebrew is read from left to right. It's like from right to left. It's opposite of what we read English. Salakia. So we read over here the Yah, right here the Ha, right here the Wa, right here the Ha. So it'd be Yahweh, right? But below we see the dot. The dot on the left produces a U sound, right? And this dot right here, right next to the Wa, would be called a Sharuk, right? And this would be pronounced Yahuwah, right? And this is how you could possibly get a pronunciation like Yahuwah, right? You know, or you would use a particular vowel letter, but just from the letters that were given, that make up the Tetragrammaton, you can't get Yahuwah from that, right? And again, most people that have that understanding, that believe that this is pronounced Yahuwah, they believe that the U predates the W, right? But as we seen in the earlier slide, the U comes from the W, right? And like I said at the end of the slide in the reference tab, we have a source that cleanly says it, that the U comes from the W, right? And then below we have right here an O on the top of the Y, and I believe that's called a cholam, and this would be pronounced as Yahoah, right? But again, you have to add dots and dashes and stuff like that, to get these renderings. But if you just look at the plain letters, it just says Yahweh, simply put, right? But if you could you read the last slide? Or Slacky, not the last slide, the last point.
We have Yahuwah on the second image from point placement on the left of the Wa. This is called the Shruk, Salaki Shruk, and Yahuwah on the third. Now, these point placements were based on what the scribes who later altered the text thought was appropriate. But the sacred texts predate this invention, so the Nikud should be dropped during the sake of this conversation, because the topic is the ancient Hebrew and proper name.
God, and like it says, simply put, the Nikud shouldn't even be a factor in this conversation, because the Nikud wasn't invented until the 9th century, like we read in the earlier slide. All right, so that's just to shed a little bit of light on that. If you have anything, Brother Hurt, you can add.
No, I don't have nothing, brother.
Okay.
Next, we Lectionis, which was the other vowel system. Hold on, Salakia.
Okay.
Screen just went. Okay. Which instead of points used vowel letters and made letter sounds ambiguous. Look at the disclaimer from a Hebrew learning source named Opan that speaks to the system. So basically, with this system, the Aleph, isn't just simply but can possibly make an O, E, or even I sound, which is simply confusion, which the Heavenly Father isn't the author of. If you want to see examples of how this system alters the language, I have included a source of information on the translation of the Great Isaiah Scroll from about 70 years ago by the scribes in Palestinian territories territories, and even from scholars themselves. Salakia, scholars themselves will tell you this is only a dialect or form of Hebrew and varies from the ancient by modifications and spellings of personal pronouns, aka names.
Con. So again, as the last slide or the last point, it says that, you know, even from scholars themselves, they'll tell you that, you know, this type of dialect or this dialect of Hebrew, you know, is a form of Hebrew, right? Or it's a type of Hebrew. It's not the ancient Hebrew itself, you know, because it modifies the you know, a lot of the pronouns, which include the personal pronouns like names, etc. Right? And what we see, you know, in the great in this the Palestinian, or I believe it's called the I should have included it in here, but it's called the Great Isaiah Scroll, but it has a different name. Most I will, and I'll put it in the comments, but it has a different name. But you know, what we see, you know, in the copies, you know, of this scroll is, you know, influences of the Matrix Lectiones, right? You know, not that Isaiah was using the Matrix Lectiones, but the what the scribes did afterward, right? They utilized, you know, additions, you know, like with vowel letters and things like that, you know. So we see the spelling of certain names just changed, right? And just to read this disclaimer, it says, some people believe that saying such and such letter reads as such and such vowel is not quite correct in the case of Matrix Lectiones, but it would be much more accurate to say such and such letter indicates the presence of certain vowel, right? So just to start with that, that's already, you know, confusion, because if we look at a particular word, right, and we see that it has say it's the a ba ga, right? Initially it's the a ba naga, which would be a bag, right? Now if you add in let's say we add in the ha, we just throw the ha somewhere in there. Now we can get from that you know, the A or the E sound or the O sound, right? And you know, we won't be able to tell or decipher which what the pronunciation of that particular letter or name is. You know, we might say oh well, it could be this or it could be this. You know, it indicates this sound, but it could indicate this sound, right? And that's, you know, what you call confusion, right? And then I'll read a little bit more of this disclaimer. It says, I'd say, first, it's arguable, and second, it doesn't really matter for practical purposes of learning Hebrew. You know, now this person is saying that, you know, the pronunciation doesn't really matter, is, you know, you just learn the language basically. And then it says, however, one must not forget the letters a, ha, and wa, and ya, used as Matrix Lectiones, do not have one specific pronunciation indeed, but they rather indicate one of. And then it says the a can be A-O-E, the ha can be A, E, and sometimes O, etc. Right? So again, as the second point said, this is utter confusion, you know, this particular vowel system. And again, this isn't ancient in origin. You know, you don't see this during the time of Moses or Joshua or anything like that. You know, this wasn't initially found in our text, right? You know, later on, you know, we started to see it, you know, within copies and things like that, you know, but that's much later on after, you know, these people walked the earth, right? So again, this, you know, this particular vowel system should be taken off the table as well. So we can move on, unless you have anything.
I don't have anything.
And Salakia, it was called it just came back to me. It was called the Qumran Cave or the Qumran Scrolls. But that's a link, or I have the link in the references on the slide also, or a slideshow also. But Salakia, you can go ahead.
Con. I could include many more slides on the changes, but I implore you to investigate the references and study the Hebrew as well. And within the sources I post, there will be a video that goes into everything deeper and more extensively than what we have. But now let's go back to the name of the Messiah, which is Yahawashi, pronounced Yahawashi. Let's take one final look and conclude.
Khan, and pretty much the last few slides, I touched on some of the information, some of the history regarding the vowel systems that are out there and utilized to basically get all of these pronunciations or all of these other pronunciations other than Yahweh. But we already touched on in one of the earlier slides, how the A-type vowel, is more ancient in origin, right? But it's much more information to go into than this, these 20 slides, I think, that I have in here. It's much more to go into, but it won't do you much good if you don't go and study some of this information for yourself. So I've posted some of the sources, within this slideshow, and I'll make it available for anybody to go and look for it. There's a really good video, that goes deeper and more extensive, into this information. And there are, again, a lot of it's a lot of information out there, right? But you just have to go into it if you really want to familiarize yourself with this information. All right. But I'll continue on unless you got anything you want to add on.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
The son's name. Earlier, we substantiated that Joshua and Jesus were synonymous, and simply put, Jesus is the Greek transliteration. The Greek is Iessos, while Joshua is the English rendition. I will show the Strong's definition for the Hebrew and Greek word.
I think you're in the Matrix, but I can continue on. Brother, hurt you in the Matrix, but I'll try to pick it back up. It says, I will show the Strong's definition for the Hebrew root and the Greek word it's transliterated to, mainly showing its link back to the Hebrew word, as well as the name Yahawashi in English Joshua within the Hebrew text, right? And as we can see in the images or the picture or the illustration, see H3091, which was mentioned earlier, and then G2424, which was mentioned earlier as well, and these two are linked. Now we see the spelling, right? Because again, it's very important for us to understand and know what we're talking about, especially if we're going to go out here and defend certain points and defend what we believe. We have to make sure we understand what we believe. We have to understand how to defend what we believe also, right? Because you got a lot of people out there, that know maybe a little bit, and even you might fervently believe and truly know that the Most High's name and the Son's name is Yahawashi, but if they're able to show you up on just one or 2 points, or show you some information that you're not aware of, then that can really affect you, right? And there have been people that have been swayed because of that, or deceived because of that, right? Not because someone thoroughly, just was able to prove a point, but because, when you stepped out there, you didn't really know what you were talking about, right? But it's very important to know what you believe, to know what you're talking about if you're trying to defend, what it is we believe, especially in the language form, right? I think even in the book of Sirach, it says, understand first and then rebuke. But I believe also you should understand what you're talking about as well. Not just what the other side is talking about, but understand what you're talking about. And not to go any further, let's just look at this is from Exodus 17:9, and it reads Waya Amar, and that reads and he said, Waya Amar Masha, which is Moses, Al, which is unto or to, and then Yahawashai, which is Joshua, Salakia. So it's and he said Moses to Joshua. Now this is Joshua's name being used, and within the Hebrew text, it's spelled with the Yah, the Ha, the Wa, the Shah, and the I. So this would be pronounced Yahawashai. It's not pronounced as the actual root, but it's pronounced as this this contracted form of the root, right? And this is very important to understand as well, the difference between a root and the difference between what's actually in the text, because there was I've seen a felonious doctrine going around that the Messiah's name wasn't Yahushai, it was Yahawashawai, right? Because he was looking at this root and he was getting tripped up. But if you look at what's actually in the text, it says Yahawashai, and this is why I say it's very important to understand what you believe and understand what you're talking about when it comes to, well, really anything concerning this truth in these scriptures, but especially the language. It's very important to have a grasp or some type of working knowledge on what it is you believe and what you're talking about if you want to try to step out there and challenge or defend, right? But if you got anything you can add on, if not, I'll move on.
Nah, I don't have anything.
Okay.
But yeah, good point on what you just said.
All praises.
Conclusion: what the Most High's name and His Son? What is the Most High's name and His Son's name? I hope the answer was made clear tonight. That His name is Yahweh and His Son's name is Yahawashi.
Khan, and that's Hebrew lesson 5 right there. Most High willing, it was made clear through the Spirit and power of the Most High that the Father's name is Yahweh and the Son's name is Yahawashi. These are the references, all of these. I'll place them in the I'll place this whole slideshow as a Google slide in the comments, Most High willing, within this week, so everybody can access it and refer back to it. All right, but that's everything I have for tonight. I'll pass it back to you, Herder, if you have anything.
Nah, I just want to say beautiful lesson, great edification, man. All praise to the Most High, and hopefully someone was edified. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, brother, the water. All praise to the Most High.
Khan, all praise to the Most High, the water. Khan, if that'll be everything, if all hearts are clear, we'll close it out with Numbers 6 and 24 on down. Yahweh will bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh will make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh will lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I'll say Shalom.
Shalom, family. Shalom out.
just wanna do what you feel because you're living in the flesh. You got comfort in captivity, but this is not your race. Micah 2 and 10. We ain't adopt European culture, it was pushed on us. This nation ain't under God, they enemies of him. Everything he told us don't do, they making it legal. Killing babies before birth, man, abortion is evil. A child is a child, even if it's a fetus. I'm tired of the lies, all they do is mislead us. On my knees I'm pleading, and the lies don't believe them. They deceitful creatures, such as dry like leeches. On our ancestors back, they built this wicked nation. Ain't no way to make it right, it ain't no justification. Here counsels on our behalf to set up indoctrination. LGBTQ, I don't care, it's abomination. You can't counsel me, cause I don't want the fame. I just wanna wake up my people and break the chain. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Cause you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So how you gonna say you got faith when you ain't got no words? Gotta afflict your flesh and put the Most High first. But you just wanna get drunk and you just wanna pop perk. But you just wanna get high until you ride the earth. He don't want lip service, it's the heart he serves. If we keep the commandments, we could break these curses. Listen close to these verses. The scripture immersed in them. To repent from sin, you gotta stop living in them. Them snakes got venom in them. The strike will kill you. That life you're living will leave you defenseless. Wake up, Israel, this might be your last chance. MJ last dance, you can't come back. Take advantage of the life you were blessed with. Get the Most High that attention that your flesh get. I know it feel good, but it's killing y'all. Use the Bible like a mirror and fix your spirit up. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living in the lust of your flesh. So you just wanna do what you feel, yeah, yeah. Cause you're living in the lust of your flesh. You're living